So we are now recording. And one more time, I'd just like to welcome all of you to the virtual workshop for the Student Center for Research, Creativity, and Scholarship. I'm Dr. Sherry Krajewski-Self, and I'm really happy to be introducing our speaker, our workshop leader, really, who's going to be talking to us about our Institutional Review Board. So Dr. Robin Schnider-Broussard is the director for the Office of Research Integrity. Did I get that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Here at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And I think that the topic she has to share with us is important, and we need to make sure that all of our researchers, no matter what level they're at, are working with this office. So Dr. Broussard, without further ado.
All right, let me figure out, we will do this. Oops, now I can't share my screen. Hang on. Let's go back. Let's share the screen first. And then we will do this.
And Dr. Broussard, we do have someone watching chat, so just so.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so when we talked about this topic originally, I was under the impression that we were going to do something kind of general and not just focused for IRB. So that's what I put together. This is about any type of research compliance that we might need to do at the university. We're going to touch on a little bit of IRB, a little bit of IACUC, and all of that type of thing. So why, when, and how? So I wanted to start by telling you at the very end, we'll have time for questions, although I don't see a whole lot of people on our virtual. Do you have people in person? I don't know. Perhaps not. I'm going to show how to contact people if you don't know how to get to people, how to find their contact information. We'll go over how to find that. So let's get started. Usually when we start talking about research compliance, this is the look I get. And they think to themselves, even if they don't say it out loud, oh no, it's her again. And yeah, that's what I get. And they really don't want to see me. And they're thinking, okay, what now? What are we going to have to do? Before we get into the why, the when, and the how, which is very important, I want to tell you a little bit about the who. So the Office of Vice President for Research, Innovation, and Economic Development is the ultimate authority that oversees all of research compliance for the university. And our Vice President is charged with making sure that all of the committees that have to oversee the research compliance have everything they need in order to do a good job of that oversight. So he has to make sure that they have training, staffing, meeting spaces, websites, whatever it is they need, he makes sure that they have it. He also makes sure that the people that we have on these committees are very knowledgeable in their field, and that they're very knowledgeable about the review process and what it takes to be a researcher and what it takes to get things approved. So we've got 4 main committees at the university. The Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee oversees vertebrate animal research. That means animals with a backbone. So if you're doing research with animals like crickets, earthworms, sea anemones, it doesn't need review. Only animals with backbones. The Institutional Biosafety Committee oversees recombinant DNA and pathogens. This is when you have 2 pieces of DNA that are not normally together in nature, and you're putting them together. Anytime you do that, that should be reviewed by the Biosafety Committee. They also look at the use of pathogens to make sure that the people who are using them are not getting exposed to something that could make them sick, or that we're using them in a manner that could make the population sick or our animals sick or create a problem in the environment. The Institutional Review Board is the committee that oversees humans, and the Radiation Safety Committee oversees radiation and the use of machines that create radiation. Myself, I'm the Director of Research Integrity, and I do most of the hands-on work with the committees, and I help them by developing forms, writing policy, writing guidelines, revising guidelines and policy, providing training, making sure that they have the training they need, routing documents, coordinating inspections, anything that they need, that's where I'm there. I'm there to help them make sure that they get that done. So now that you know a little bit about who, let's go into why you need to get research approved. And about now, you're probably thinking, I was right. This is boring. Why am I here? Well, you need to know about why you need to get approval. And I want to tell you a little bit, very, very brief history. It's actually a very long history. It's gone on for hundreds of years, but you need to get approval because of this history. When the public became aware of research being done on animals stolen from people's yards or bred in puppy and kitten mills with atrocious living conditions, a huge outcry went out, and it induced Congress to pass the Animal Welfare Act in 1966, which created regulations and oversight bodies to prevent the types of atrocities the public had seen. That animal welfare regulation continues to be updated as needed. And in fact, the most recent updates included primates and marine mammals. Continues to be updated. The other regulations that we have involve humans. And the reason we had these developed was because of the problems that we saw with the Nazi human experiments and things that came out during the Nuremberg trials after World War II. We had the Nuremberg Code developed, and we had the Declaration of Helsinki. Even after we had all of those documents proclaiming how we should treat humans better, we still in our own country had some problems with human research, where we involved prisoners, soldiers, people with low literacy rates in research, and they were not given the ability to consent to being in those experiments. And so because of that, we now have human research regulations, and those were first put into place in 1974. They're continually updated, and our most recent update happened in January of 2019. We also have biosafety guidelines that keep our people, our livestock, and our environment safe from genetically modified organisms and release of pathogens. And we have radiation safety regulations to protect us from the environment, from radiation exposures that can cause disease and even death. I have a picture here that shows radium hand cleaner from the old days. Yes, it really had radium in it. And yes, it takes everything off, including the skin. This jar says, but the skin, it could take off the skin too. There were a lot of things we used to do in the old days with radiation that we don't do anymore, thank God. And we have regulations that make sure that we do things properly and that all of our equipment is properly maintained. So this is why we have the need for approval, to make sure we have good scientific merit, that there's benefits versus risks that are analyzed. The committees look at this, that there's appropriate use of resources, that we're generating knowledge that we actually need to ensure the safety of animals, humans, and the environment, to make sure that humans have the ability to have an informed consent, that they know everything that's going to happen to them before they say, okay, I'll be part of this. Make sure their information is held private and make sure that we keep it confidential. So now you're probably thinking, well, we got regulations. Somebody screwed up in the past. Why are we going over this? Just tell me what I need to know. When do I need to get the approval? Well, I have some helpers that are going to help us walk through the process. So, when do you need to get approval? You need to get it before you start. Ask your professor if they already have approval for the whole class or the project you're working on in their lab. If not, then you might need to get approval with the help of your professor. What? Before I start? Can I go to the library and use books first? Yes. What about the internet? Can I use the internet? Maybe. It depends on how you're using it. Be careful that you are only looking up information and not observing people's behavior. To observe behavior, tweets, Facebook posts, and things like Instagram pics for research requires approval before you start. Ah! It's okay. It's not hard to get approval. People do it all the time. All right. So when I have approval, can I do what I need to do to collect the data? Yes, as long as it was in the description of the research that was approved. But if you want to do something different from what was approved, you need to get the changes reviewed and approved before you use them. It's not hard. It will be okay. Let's get you started. First, you need to get trained. Trained? How do I get trained? Each committee has its own training requirements. You need to check their website. First, you need to know which committee will review your research. It depends on the kind of research you're doing. I have a list to help you. Vertebrate animals are reviewed by the IACUC. Recombinant DNA and pathogens are reviewed by the IVC. Humans, that's reviewed by the IRB. And if you're using radiation or radiation producing machines, you go to the RSC, the Radiation Safety Committee. How do I find the training? Go to www.louisiana.edu. Type the committee acronym in the search field. In the left bar on the window that opens, find the link for training and click it. Now I'll note here that the IRB has city training available. The IACUC also has city training available. That's pretty easy to get to. If you need radiation training, talk to the director of the Research Integrity. She'll hook you up. It's on Moodle. The Biosafety Committee doesn't have any required training, but they do have some that's available on city. And you want to talk to the research director about which training you should take. So you go to the training page, the city training pages that are available for Institutional Review Board and the IACUC. They'll tell you how to get to that training, how to sign up, and which training you should take. Okay, so once I get trained and I'm all finished with that, how do I find the application forms? Let's go back to the committee webpage. Go to your www.louisiana.edu, type in that acronym, and get to the proper webpage. In the webpage, in the left bar, look for the forms link. Every committee has a forms link. Go to the forms page and you will find the forms that you need. Each committee has a link to the page with the forms, right? And once you get to that forms page, you'll see that there's different ways to find the forms. IACUC and the IRB allow you to use an online form or application system. You don't have to download anything. You just go into the system, type it all in online, and submit your forms. IBC uses a Word document, and you'll email it to the committee. Radiation Safety uses a PDF that's fillable, and you'll email that into the committee. So you fill out your application form, have your professor review it, and then submit it to the committee. Everything's good to go. After that, you answer any questions the committee has, and take note, sometimes that committee might ask you to come explain your project to them. Don't worry, it's not a scary process. The committee is there to help you. They have lots of helpful suggestions. Then you wait for your approval letter. That easy. When you're approved, you can start your research. Note, you may need approval from more than one committee. If that's true, you can do both applications at the same time. What if you need help? Well, you can contact any of the committee chairs All of their information are on their web pages. This is how it will look. Contacts for the IACUC, contacts for the IBC, contacts for the IRB, or contacts for radiation safety. And if you can't reach any of them, or if you're just too scared, you can always call me, email me, Teams me. We'll plan a Zoom meeting. You can come by my office. I'm ready to help. So a few things to remember. Do any required training. It can help in your research planning. Get your approval first. It protects you, your research subjects, and the university. And when you don't know, please ask. There's a lot of help available, and you got this. It's not hard. It just takes a little time. That's all I have. I have time for lots of questions. And I'll stop sharing.
That was absolutely awesome. Yeah, I agree. I first of all just want to say thank you. I have a